Hi, gorgeous ones. Welcome back to day 7 of my distraction series, where I read to you sections from my first book, The Men I've Almost Dated, in the hope that I will, just for a short period of time, help to distract you from some of the awfulness that's happening in the world right now. So, let's get going. Today I'm reading from the chapter called Surviving the Impact. And by the way, if you've missed what's happened until now, go back and check out my earlier videos because I'm actually reading the book, from the start to the end. And if you want to know what happened before, you need to go and check that out. All right, Surviving the Impact. A lot of people will tell you that marriage is too easy to get out of these days. People don't work at things anymore and they don't take it seriously enough. That's why the divorce rate is so high, they say. But I don't believe that for a second. Most people don't give up on their marriages lightly or quickly. Rarely do we simply wake up one morning without any forethought or warning and decide to call it quits. I didn't feel joy when I left my marriage. Even when I knew it was for the best and we both needed to let go of each other, it was still awful, painful, uncomfortable, and gut-wrenchingly difficult. And then, just when I thought I was fine, the final divorce papers arrived and I spun out of control again. So I started an affair with a married man. Clearly, my self-esteem wasn't riding high. I'd been rushing around my backyard a few weeks earlier, running late as usual, when I looked up and saw him. Him being Barry, and he was perched on my neighbour's roof. He was conducting a building inspection and it felt like he'd been watching me for a while. We quietly observed each other for a moment or two before I broke the silence. "Hi," I said. "Hi," he said. Then I went back inside and got on with my day. Our affair started the day after my divorce papers arrived. He'd been married for decades and said I was only his second indiscretion. I chose to believe him. Barry was 10 years older, and when he first removed his cap, I was taken aback for a moment by his grey hair and balding head. But still I proceeded. I needed to feel something, anything. I needed to feel wanted. Did I think about his wife? I guess so. But I rationalised that it was his relationship, not mine. It was his choice. I guess that makes me sound cold and it's not part of my life I'm proud of, but I wasn't thinking too straight. Over the following decade, I'd find married and otherwise attached men would frequently proposition and flirt with me, but I would always decline. I wanted someone who was mine, not another woman's leftovers. But at the time, I needed someone to be there, and Barry was it. He told me I was beautiful, held me, and brought me chocolate as a surprise. I needed what he offered. We agreed from the start that it wouldn't be long term. I certainly wasn't in love with him and called it off after a few weeks. Our parting was melodramatic with tears on both sides. I was addicted to the roller coaster drama that had become a fixture in my life, and his emotion-charged Italian style was something that attracted me from the beginning. But I knew it was over. Unfortunately, Barry didn't detach from my life easily and would contact me repeatedly over the following years. Every time I thought he'd finally got the message, he'd call again. Eventually, I started screening his calls and stopped responding altogether. 4 years after we'd first met, Barry arrived unannounced on my doorstep. I didn't flatter myself that he was interested in my scintillating conversation. He dressed up for the occasion and looked good, trim, happy, and very pleased to see me. He even knew exactly how long it had been since we'd last spoken. He was terribly charming. For him, nothing had changed, and if I'd crooked my little finger, he would have been back in my bed. I didn't invite him in and could tell he was just as unavailable as ever. "Have you married again?" he asked. I couldn't believe his audacity. Did he honestly think that if I was married again, I would entertain him for a second? "No, not yet," I said politely. "Maybe one day, but not yet." He asked about my travels and we talked about his work. He gave me his latest business card, but I refused to give him my number. I told him our time together had been lovely, but it was done. He seemed to accept my words and left shortly afterwards. 2 weeks later, he was back on my doorstep and I couldn't believe it. Did he really think I would invite him back into my life and back into my bed? Barry, I ground out between gritted teeth. I've tried to be polite, but you're just not getting it. What we had was lovely, but it's over, and you turning up here could be seen as stalking. So get off my porch right now and don't ever come back. I've never seen a man scurry before, but Barry definitely scurried. He scurried down my front stairs, across the lawn, and into his car before driving off at a rapid pace. I never heard from him again. Now, I need to make a confession at this point to you guys. And the confession is this. I actually recorded my reading of that chapter a few days ago, but I had a degree of trepidation and hesitation about sharing it. And let's face it, the reason I was worried about that was because of the content. Namely, that it's dealing with me having an affair with a married man. Now, obviously, in a perfect world, this is not the kind of behaviour that anyone would encourage. Marriage is a commitment to somebody and it's meant to be exclusive. And I didn't respect that. But when I look back now, I just think I was just doing the best I could in the situation I found myself in. And was it ideal to have an affair with him? No. But I did what I did and I did the best I could at the time. So I've had to make peace with that. And here's the other thing that I've realised with a bit more maturity, because obviously this book and this part of my life was finished quite a fair while ago, quite a few years ago now. What I realised is that relationships aren't black and white. It'd be so much easier if they were, but they're not. And in my 20s, when I was still married, if someone had told me this story about a woman having an affair with a married man, I would have been full of judgment. And I would have been full of judgment for her and for him. And I would have been saying, you know, things like, if you want to be with someone else, you just need to make a clean break and just get out of there before you start something with someone else. But as I've grown up and I've learned more about the world, I realised that human beings are a lot more complex than that and a lot more flawed than that. So, was I behaving like a perfect human at the time? No, because I'm not perfect. Was it a less than ideal scenario? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm human. And so I'm sharing this part of my story with you in the hope that maybe you can recognise your own humanness as well. Take care, and I will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.